Hey everybody, this is Bob Engel, and today I'm having words with my young brother, Peter Assad. Man, I'm thinking about how to introduce you, and I came up with you're a painter, a pastor, a poet, a prophet,
Hmm.
and a psalmist.
Hey, all the P's.
No pressure, bro. No
That's
pressure.
right. It's good to be here, man. Thanks for the invite.
It's man, you've had tremendous influence in my life. You post things that challenge me. You post things that encourage me. I think I mentioned to you some time back, about 10 years ago, you gave me a word that literally kept me from getting offline. I mean,
Hmm.
I I was just thinking, wow, what is this, and what have I stepped into here? And
Hmm.
you came back, and without knowing I was having that thought, and you came back and told me I was where I needed to be, doing what I needed to do, and
Wow.
that was thousands of friends and no doubt hundreds of thousands of chats. And looked on our blog the other day, we crossed 600,000 page views, which
No
is
kidding.
not a big internet number at all. We haven't pushed it. It's just out there, and people go to it. And in a way, your influence on me has covered every one of those P's that I named to you.
Hmm. That's really gracious. And God is just so kind, isn't he? He puts us with the people that we need right when we need them.
Pretty good organizer.
I would say so.
Brother, I've just been listening to to your 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 poems project.
Poems of grace.
Yep, Poems of Grace. Rivers to Eden, man.
Yeah.
Uh, the
The
great
al
prophet.
the
Go ahead.
album or the song?
The album. And the great Joni Mitchell, the prophetess of my generation, said, "We are stardust. We're golden. We're billion year old carbon, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden."
Wow.
Yeah, and she said that 50 years ago, man, and she was right then, and
Hmm.
she's right now. But man, rivers to the garden.
Mm.
That means all we need to do is find a stream, because the garden's downstream for with the current will take us, won't it?
It will. And if you so what's cool about that album, as you're pointing out right now so beautifully, there's a stream, there's a river that we can trace. And in some ways, in the song itself, Rivers to Eden, we talk about our tears and how God catches all of our tears. And these tears actually maybe are, in fact, rivers to Eden. They are, in fact, this pathway that sometimes the things that bring tears to our eyes, I forget who said this, the things that bring tears to our eyes are usually the sign of what brings us to life, the thing that actually makes us most alive.
Wow, what happened in Eden? Uh, we've been It's been so focused on the third chapter of the story,
Mm.
and so neglected the really important parts. The two stories almost of creation. Often heard people say, "Well, which one's right?" And I heard a tremendous observation on that the other day. Young sister said, "Well, when you have multiple witnesses of something like a car accident, you'll you'll always hear a different view from each witness. That's what makes the story valid. If everybody said
Mm.
exactly the same thing, it would be almost like it was concocted.
That's true.
But that's not what we got, man. And yet all of it takes us to the same point. What when you're thinking of getting in a stream back to the garden, where do you want it to take you? What's the outcome of that trip?
Well, I would sure hope, if for nothing else, ultimately the presence of God. I think that's the starting place. You know, the whole story began with walking in the cool of the day with Him. At least our story began that way, I should say. His story existed long before that, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Our story was walking with Him in the cool of the day. And I feel like in a lot of ways, everything that we're chasing, it's like Ecclesiastes 3 talks about, eternity has been written on our hearts. So whether we're chasing fame or we're chasing success or we're chasing people or experiences or money or whatever it is, there's this eternity vacuum inside of us that only the Lord can fill. And so here we are. Ultimately, even these moments of crying, these tears that come, all the pain that we experience in this wilderness life, even the tears can be a reminder. They can form into rivers, as it were, that lead us back to Eden, back to God.
If I could refer back to a phrase common in my generation, would you say that every day we're walking with God is cool?
I love that.
Yeah, I mean,
walking in the cool of the day.
Yeah, man, we're cooling out with chilling with the Lord, man.
I love it.
And by the way, we're all God's children, right? So
I love it.
So yeah, we man, that's good. The presence of the Lord.
Mm.
We never are away from it.
That's true. Yeah, in some ways. I mean, that's the psalmist, right? Psalm, was it 139? Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I make my bed here, if I go on over here, whatever it is, like, there you are. And in some ways, the challenge, I guess, is waking up to his presence. The challenge is becoming aware of his presence. It's kind of like it's in Genesis, maybe it's chapter 29. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's where Joseph is in prison. And it literally says multiple times in that chapter that God was with him. And it's interesting how that phrase, God was with him, disappears when he's in power, disappears when he's at the top of his game. But at least in that lowest of low, it was maybe it was closer to the surface. Maybe there was a more keen awareness of, I really need God with me here, or at least we need convincing that he's with us in the low.
Your post, your thread the other day that caused me to write a blog about how you heard the word depressed and you heard it as deep rest.
Yeah,
I want to tell you that's been bounced off some people with pretty astounding results in the last week or so.
No kidding. I'd love to hear more on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the phone this morning with a business associate, and all of a sudden, he's telling me about challenges he's facing. And I know the man is familiar with the word from other conversations. And I just pointed out to him, as I did in the blog, every player, if you will, every servant, every prophet, every apostle, everyone that ever did anything significant in the Bible, if you'll research them, they went through a valley. They went through a deep time. Not necessarily to get to their first ministry. Of course, Jesus obviously went through 40 days, but you got guys like Elijah, who I wrote a lyric in a song called "Willow to Be on Fire." Elijah was a prophet of the Lord. He called down rain and he called down fire by God's holy word. He burned and slew Baal's prophets, and he never did retire. He got a ride to the other side on the chariot of fire. Are you willing to be on fire? But keep in mind, between when he burned and slew Baal's prophets and when he got a ride on that chariot, he hid himself in a rock and said, "God, take me. I'm done. I'm by myself. I can't make it." He went through a great valley of depression.
Man, I've been there too. I think we all have, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's disillusionment, I think. It's the sense, I mean, what was happening with Elijah? It was this moment, he's on the Mount Carmel, there's this spectacular display, fire from heaven consuming the altar, all of this. And I think they're probably, this is me supposing, but this is what I imagine. I imagine what happened was he thought, finally, this is it. This is going to turn Israel around. This will turn God's people around. And then what's the very next chapter open with? But Jezebel's still in power. And she goes, I'm going to kill you. Now, I don't think Elijah's scared for his life in that moment. I think he runs away because he's like, there is nobody else who will stand and be a follower of God in this day. There is no one else, which is why after God does all that he does, he brings him food, he gives him rest, he gives him some perspective with the still small voice and all of this. Then what does God do? God says, hey, I want you to know there's a bunch more people like you. There's a young man named Elisha, and you're going to, and so there's a disillusionment that I think happens to all of us at times where we're like, this is the thing that's going to turn it around, and it doesn't. And God is patient with us. And I love, oh my goodness, I love how the day came, didn't it? The day came where on the Mount of Transfiguration,
Yeah.
two people are brought with the Lord in that moment. You've got Moses
And Elijah.
and Elijah. Elijah got to see. He got to see the fulfillment, this thing that he had been waiting for, this Lord that he had been waiting. He got to see him in that place. He got to see the look on the disciples' faces, Peter, James, and John. I just think what a kindness of God.
So much there in what you said. First of all, I always love to remind people that what the Lord said to Elijah is there's 7,000 that you know not of that haven't bowed their knee to Baal. 7's the number of completion. There's 1,000 times enough people that haven't bowed their knee to Baal, brother. 1,000 times. And so he went out again, and of course there was Elisha.
Yeah. Yep.
Who listened to my friend Bill Vanderbush today talking about fire. And when Elisha saw Elijah, he knew what he was seeing. He burned his plow and cooked his ox. I mean, he wasn't leaving any way back, brother.
He was ready to go.
And Elijah warned him, man, it's going to be tough. But he went, and he ended up with the mantle, and he did. Elijah told him he would, and he did far more recorded even than Elijah did. I never was a pastor, but I was asked to preach from time to time, and the only sermon I ever preached that I choreographed in any way, that I used any kind of aids. What the Lord would do with me is, first of all, I'd be asked to preach, and then maybe the day before, the Lord would give me a scripture and say, this is what I want you to preach on. Now, if you want to hear a bad sermon, hear one that I prepared, okay? I mean, the deal was the Lord would just give me a scripture, and I'd stand in front of the people and open the book and read the scripture, and just whatever came out, came out.
Wow.
I'd always go get my recording to hear what I said later on, because I didn't know what I was going to say. But in this particular time, the Lord spoke to me on a nice Saturday, about this time of year, a day kind of like today, and said, I want you to preach about David and Goliath. And then he said, I want you to find 5 smooth stones. Man, I thought, where am I going to get 5 smooth stones? I went to a gardening place and they didn't have it. And I went here and went there. Finally, I ended up on my knees in a creek bed. Creek bed's the lowest part of the valley, bro. I ended up on my knees in the lowest part of the valley. And that's where I found the stones that had the water run over them.
Wow.
And smooth them so they'd fly true. What the Lord showed me out of that, he had me put those in a bag, like a shoulder bag, like David might have had. And put those 5 stones in. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the church, the ecclesia, and the man who's willing to be thrown into the situation.
Wow.
And last stone in, first stone out, right? So it's always going to be the man who finds what he needs on his knees in the lowest part of the valley. And he's going to be the one that's where you go before you're going to slay giants.
That's good. That's good.
Back to the garden.
Yeah.
We're both songwriters, and we both know what we were thinking when we wrote. I'm fascinated that 20 or 30 years later, I'm discovering things that I absolutely know I wasn't thinking that are in the songs. And you'll do that. You may already do that, and you'll do it if you haven't. What were you thinking when you wrote when you got into that project, when the Rivers to Eden project? What inspired that?
Yeah. So my wife, her name is Grace.
Yes.
Let's see. And Poems of Grace is actually connected more to Ephesians 2, where it talks about how we are his workmanship. His poema is the Greek word there. So kind of his workmanship, his poem, his art, his masterpiece, and of his grace, right? This is what he's doing. This is what he calls us into. And so that said, my wife Grace happens to have been studying Genesis. Rather, she was studying Genesis. She was really digging into it and tracing a thread of wilderness. It started in Genesis and then it went all the way to the end, to Revelation, and just tracing this thread of wilderness and flourishing and you know what's it called, like need and all this kind of stuff. And so she's digging into this, and as she was, just different things started to surface in her. And so we're having conversations about this. We begin writing some music out of the things that we're learning, and that's actually ultimately what Rivers to Eden is about. We're tracing the thread starting in Genesis all the way to Revelation of wilderness, and it eventually ends, the last song, "Come Lord Jesus Come," that we are looking forward to the day when Christ will come in a way that and bring to fulfillment, not just a garden, but a garden city, right? And cultivated and beautiful, and we get to join him in this work now. But the wilderness is a place where he woos us. We see that in Hosea. That's actually what Doors of Hope, that song, is all about. The wilderness is the place where he speaks tenderly to Israel. We see that in their story. And in the same way that God did that with them, God does that with us, that there are wilderness seasons in our life. This to pull from Genesis 1, this tohu wabohu, this wilderness desert wasteland. And God can speak light into it, and he can bring order to the chaos, and he can show himself to be not just a provider and not just present, but also providential over it. He is sovereign, he is good, and he shows all these ways of really entering into the wilderness with us and bringing something out of that. And so, yeah, that was a little bit of, I guess, some of the underlying thoughts that were behind that. And it ended up being incredibly profound for us in our church, because as we're working on this project and we're writing these songs and getting them recorded, we entered into a wilderness season as a church where our church, the lead pastor's daughter suddenly passed away. Another in our congregation, young woman, passed away. We're talking like within a month of each other. And as a church, we're grieving. As a church, we're, I won't give into all the details. The Lord has been present with us in all of this, but here we were finding ourselves in this situation. And these songs ended up being part of a balm that I think the Lord was allowing to bring some healing to his people and to us in processing this grief.
Finding the stones in the lowest part of the valley.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. He doesn't bring order to chaos. He shows us the order that's in what appears to be chaos. It's not
explain
chaos.
that a little bit?
Yeah. There's an order to all of it.
Mm.
And what appears to be chaos to us is our lack of understanding of what we're really seeing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, for sure, there is a reality that he can bring understanding of order in the chaos. I've also found it true, like if I, just to use an example, washing laundry, and the laundry is a disaster. It's a mess. It needs to be folded. There's some ordering of chaos that can take place in that. So that's more of what I'm getting at. But you're right. There's, and I also found sometimes insight comes when I recognize the chaos in what we call order. But sometimes we settle for, certain things in certain places, and it's like, why are these rules in place? And that's tradition sometimes that needs to get flipped on its head, as it were. And yeah, so there's sometimes chaos in order that needs to be unearthed, because it's actually still chaotic. It's just, and it's not ordered rightly, if that makes sense.
Sister Catherine Toon great sister, and the cover of her first book is a heart with it's a heart-shaped fingerprint. And Catherine's not only a great Bible teacher, but she's an MD. So I had her on a podcast, and I said, "Sister, can you speak to that?" And your fingerprint is unique because it is formed by the movement of the embryonic fluid while you're in your mother's womb. No two fingerprints are alike. Yeah, wow. No two fingerprints are alike because that fluid would never duplicate it. That motion would never, ever duplicate itself. Think about that. And so in that chaos of the dryer, everything's still a shirt or a pair of pants or whatever. Everything is there. The order is there. It just needs to be re-recognized. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Wow. We limit ourselves when we want to stop where we understand. I mean, on the Mount of Transfiguration, perfect example. Yeah, the brother Peter saying, my man Peter, he's saying, "Wow, Lord, let's build a church here. We could get a worship team and everything, right?" You know. And Jesus said, "Dude, come on, man. I just want you. I'm letting you see a perspective that you normally won't see."
Yeah.
I'm exposing to you who you really are. Fearfully and wonderfully made. How awesome is that when God calls you? Yeah, I mean, how much light's in there? What are the possibilities? We haven't found them. We haven't found anywhere near the limit of the possibilities.
That's fair.
I just before the call, I had a wonderful sister. I love her. She's got a great sense of humor, and I really enjoy. I've never met her personally, but we're friends, man. And she posted something about something I'd said, and she said, I wish I'd met you a long time ago." And I went back, "For such a time as this, sister. The time is right now."
Totally.
That's what we've got is now. I mean, I'm 80, but I've still got now, you know. I may or may not have tomorrow. I can enjoy my memory of yesterday, but what I have is now.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite Bible characters is Simeon. "Behold, there was a man in Jerusalem, Simeon was his name, and he was just and devout, waiting for the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Ghost was upon him."
Yeah.
And that old man, who, by the way, Paul's Hebrew teacher, Gamaliel, was Simeon's grandson. But that old man, standing in the middle of everything that happened in Jerusalem, all business, all religion, everything happened at the temple. Everything. And on that day, we don't know whether he was there every day or not, but on that day, here comes this little carpenter couple from across the tracks in Nazareth. The old man says, "Hold everything.
I know what's happening.
This is it." And preaches the gospel in Jerusalem. Very interesting, by the way, to those of you who would have the women be silent in the church. Then they took the child into the temple.
You got the prophetess. Yep.
And an old cleaning lady named Anna, a widow who'd been there for 40 years, was who recognizing that she was the first person to preach Jesus in the temple, man.
Isn't that interesting? The first person to preach Jesus in the temple was a woman, and the first person to preach the resurrected Christ was Mary Magdalene, a woman.
Well,
for those who have ears, let them hear. You know?
And for the first person who knew he was coming was a woman, Mary. The first person to confirm it was cousin Elizabeth. The person who outed him was his mom again at the marriage of Cana.
Yeah.
The first person to preach the gospel to the Gentiles was a Samaritan woman.
That's right, John 4.
And if it hadn't been for three sisters, we still wouldn't know he rose from the grave, right? I mean,
Wow.
I wrote a blog several years ago called "What I Think of Women in the Ministry," and I concluded it with "Speak up, sisters. Brother Bob's listening."
I
You know,
love it.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. It's so beautiful that
Mm.
Grace is so involved and so influential,
Yeah.
and 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 you have the understanding to not only allow that but support it.
Well, I would be a fool if I didn't.
Absolutely. You know, Flo's dad many years ago found a gold band. He was digging up a sidewalk of all things, and he found a pretty wide gold band under it, and he gave it to me and to give to Flo. And inside that, I had the inscription Proverbs 31:10 through 31.
Mm.
If you'll think of that scripture, it describes this absolutely amazing woman.
Mm.
All these things that she does about her household, and she has a business and all this stuff. And the one mention of her husband, it says,
He praises her.
in King James, it says she brings him honor when he sits with the elders at the gate.
Yeah.
Which is King James for the dude's cool because he married her, right?
I feel that one.
I do too, man.
Trophy husband right here.
Yeah. So,
it's funny.
for you sisters out there that hear this, Brother Bob and Brother Peter are listening.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. What you doing now, man? I mean, I know you're recording. I know you're involved in some songwriting things, both in California and in Nashville, and but tell me what you're doing. What's happening daily for Peter and Grace?
Sure. Well, okay, so you said Peter and Grace. So my wife is a NICU nurse. She is involved in the education side of things for the NICU at Children's Mercy in Kansas City, so downtown. So she helps acclimate new nurses to the unit. She helps ensure ongoing development and all those kinds of things for the staff and several other things. But yeah, she does that full time. She's also working on a master's degree right now for basically more nursing leadership. She's an incredible teacher, incredible leader, and the hospital has been one place that I think has recognized that and has leveraged her in that way. And so she's been doing that. But as far as us together, I mean, my life is basically divided into three parts, and they're not all equal all the time. They shift and they morph, but I've got all my family stuff, everything from being a dad to being a husband to, what does it take to, make sure the house is in order, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's my family side. That's the first bucket. Second bucket is pastoral work. I am involved in a church. I don't do that as my full-time thing. It is, I'm I guess bivocational in that way. But I'm a part of a staff crafting sermon series, preaching, leading worship, training up preachers and worship leaders and counseling and that kind of stuff. And then the last part of my life is all the creative work. That's everything from paint. I'm a watercolor and acrylic painter. You've heard some of the music. So writing music, recording music. We have a devotional that we wrote, my wife and I. It's called The Story, and it just tells the story of God through word, art, and song. And so it's the devotional plus the album of 12 songs recorded in Nashville, and then some paintings that go with it and things. So yeah, those are kind of the three pieces of my life, and trying to balance them all at different times in different ways.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Got to visit 50 plus years ago, got to visit the NICU at Mercy.
Wow.
We showed up with a 10-pound 8-ouncer.
Wow.
Oh yeah. He
was this Mercy or Children's Mercy?
Children's Mercy.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Had a high bilirubin account, and so they sent him over.
But yeah, that's a much bigger baby than the usual baby.
Oh yeah, he looked like he looked like Goliath in there, right? And I'd go in a couple, 3 times a day. I was working in the city, and I could get in. I'd go in and feed him 2 or 3 times a day, and he'd like do a whole infant feeder full of food.
Oh wow!
But we took him over on a Sunday afternoon. I mean, the doctor born in Excelsior Springs, and the doctor said he needs to go over to Children's Mercy. So
wow.
We took him over, and they sent our daughter's chart. She was a couple years older than him, and she was like 6 pounds 8 ounces, right?
Hmm.
And so here they pull this chart and they see this baby and the chart says 6 pounds 8 ounces, and the baby weighs 8 pounds 10 ounces. And we kept hearing them say, "Weigh him again, weigh him again." You know, and finally we interacted with them, and everybody figured out they had the wrong chart, but they were wonderful people there, and
Yeah.
it was like feeding Gulliver. You know, you'd go in there and here's this giant in there with these little 1 pounders and 2 pounders, you know, but they were beautiful people, and they let me have a relationship with my son immediately.
Mm.
That I just
Wonderful.
talked to him, just talked to him before we started the call. I mean, and I tell nurses this story. I was in a really bad car wreck in '89. Got a cord shock between C3 and 4. I was paralyzed from the neck down. Literally, when they finally it was about 4 in the afternoon, when they finally got me in ICU about midnight, I couldn't push the nursing button. Now, you know I'm a guitar picker, right? I literally couldn't move my finger to push the nursing button.
Wow.
And nurse came in about 1 a.m. and said, "When's the last time you ate?" And I said, "I guess at noon." And she said, "Are you hungry?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess I am." The woman went and got a little cardboard box full of ice cream and a flat wooden spoon and fed me.
Amazing.
I found that woman after I could walk. I was at Liberty, and I found that woman. I said, "I don't really remember her or not, but I want to tell you, I'll never forget you doing that."
Yeah.
I tell that story to every nurse I meet.
Mm.
And I always follow it by saying, Jesus said, "He who would be first among you, let him be your servant."
Mm.
You guys are way up on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What a beautiful thing
It
to
is.
choose to heal.
Mm.
And what a fantastic thing is to choose to support new life, which is what she's doing.
That's right.
She's supporting new life that's being challenged by something.
Mm-hmm.
That's we married well, brother.
I was about to say, you as you shared just now, two things came to my mind, and they're two very different thoughts, but maybe I'll offer both and you decide which you want to tackle. So in the NICU and everywhere, but nursing in general, you're touching not just human lives, but you're very near death as well. And so there was one particular situation where Grace came home and had to walk a baby to the morgue and all of this, and it was just a devastating, crushing experience. And they're always difficult, but this one was like one more. It was just that next one that just kind of did them in. And she had been wrestling with that for a while. And one day we sat at a piano and she's just sharing some of these things, and I'm playing some music underneath, and a song was born. And the song is called Held. It's on Spotify, it's on YouTube, all of that. But Held is the story of basically, as a nurse, watching and walking alongside families enduring infant loss. And it's a very unique tragedy. It's a very unique grief. And it's not one that we know personally, except through Grace's, but there's a line in there about, I should be holding you, but I'm holding this instead. Wow. That's the line. And by the end of it, there's a sense of hope, maybe not closure, but a little bit of hope that would say, the eternal hands of God are holding us, even in the midst of all that we're holding. So there's something of turnaround, but really it just kind of hangs in that heavy space. It's Grace solo singing, some piano underneath, and some cello work. And it's really quite a beautiful piece, and does something very unique that I don't think many songs do, just entering into that space with people who are enduring that. The second thought that came to mind is, I was in Nepal recently, actually during the time of the protests. So it's kind of wild being there on the ground, but we had the chance of getting to meet some leaders, some pastors out there, pouring into them, hearing their stories, being invested in as well, and then got to meet some orphans at a shelter rather. And one of the young women, her name is Lali, and this was just incredible. She told her story. She's like 16. And she as she told her story, the Lord put this thought in my mind, that it was just in my heart to record a short video, basically letting her describe her story and asking people to fund her project. Because here's what's happening: she just graduated, she finished her schooling, and what she wants to do next is she wants to be a nurse. And this is all happening while Nepal is literally on fire. And so I'm recording this. It's like a 3-minute, 5-minute video. I don't even know. Didn't edit it, just whatever. And because her program is $6,000 for the 3 years. That's it. You finish it, and she becomes a nurse, because her heart is what? It's to be hands and feet of Jesus that are bringing healing to her people. And so, sure enough, recorded that video, posted it online, and within 3 hours, the $6,000 were raised for her, which was amazing. And to get to tell her that, she was blown away. The people who run the shelter were just floored, and we're just grateful for the generosity of humans, of people who recognize, like, this is a need. This is I mean, literally, one of the gifts came in anonymously, over $3,000. Someone wrote a check just like that. So I think, to your point, Brother Bob, nurses do a beautiful thing as reflecting the hands and feet of Jesus. And I think that there's, at least sometimes, a recognition and appreciation for that. But man, it's a hard, difficult road.
I will find a way to make a nurse laugh. I had a little surgery back in December of 23, and while I was in there, I tested positive for COVID, and I had no bad effects and no lingering or anything, so I'm not a COVID victim. But because I tested positive, they kept me and quarantined me. I mean, everybody the door was closed, I couldn't even see in the hall, right? And everybody that came in was shrouded, with paper, masks, and suits, and so on and so forth. I was on a Zoom call one afternoon while I was in there with some brothers, and the door opened, and a nurse started in, and I said, "Guys, you got to excuse me. One of my congregation just walked in the door." And later on, I realized, brother, you just prophesied to yourself. The nurse was the first place and I wasn't trying to preach to her. She's just somebody that I knew I'd get to say something to. Maybe quote a scripture, maybe not. Maybe tell her a joke. I just knew I'd get to make her life. It was an opportunity to make her life a little better. And she, just like Grace, deals with people that are in pain.
Yeah.
I want to tell you a story. We lost a child very early in the birthing process, a miscarriage, very early.
Yeah.
So totally different than losing a born child. I mean,
it's still devastating.
It was tough. And
wow.
but in the 80s, I had a company that I started in my basement, and it grew and it grew, and circumstances started turning against us. Our biggest supplier saw us as a competitor and quit selling us parts. About half the people in my company went to my church, and the pastor of the church at that time felt like he needed to run my business, and so that was going on, all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah,
I did everything I could to keep it alive. I went without paychecks. And I made plenty of mistakes too in the process, right? But finally, about this time of the year, in 1988, just couldn't go on anymore.
Mm.
And I came home that afternoon, and I said, "Baby, I'm 43 years old, and I have 2 children and a wife, and I'm unemployed, no $300,000. That's where I was." Okay. I said, "I don't know what I'm going to do." And she said, "I've been saving something I need to tell you." She said, "David saw Bathsheba. He committed adultery with her, committed murder around it.
Mm.
They had a baby, and that baby was born very ill. And David prayed violently. So David was so violent in his prayer that people were afraid to go around him.
Yeah.
And he prayed and fasted for 7 days. And finally he rose up, and he came out from that prayer. and said, "We've got a kingdom to run. I can't keep doing this." Nathan, the old prophet that called him out on this, David married Bathsheba, and they had another child.
Mm.
And we know that child, senior moment, we know that child is Solomon, which means peace, right?
Yeah.
But Nathan, the old prophet, called him Jedediah, which means the blessings of God.
Mm.
Flo said, "Your baby died today. Go have peace and the blessings of God."
Mm.
I lived on that word for months.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that was what, 37 years ago.
Mm.
Still burns in me.
I bet.
That's some of that order in the chaos.
Mm.
And nobody said it was going to be easy.
I love how you just did that. So you're right. That is some of the order in the chaos, because what's happening in that is we are seeing the Lord's fingerprints. He is so far out in front of us, right? And we just don't always have eyes to see that. I recently began a practice. I was in a conversation with several Christians, and one of them, it was one of those, like flipping comments. People say things, they don't really mean it, but they say it and they perpetuate something. And the statement that was made was, "There's nothing new under the sun." And it was supposed to be this, like, stop trying to be original, stop trying to be whatever. And I stopped this person and I said, "You realize that was Solomon on a bad day. Like, that disagrees with what God himself says in Isaiah, that behold, I'm doing a new thing. Do you have eyes to perceive it?" So between Solomon on a bad day and God in his word, I'm gonna stake my claim on what God has to say. And the problem that I understand, it's not that there's nothing new under the sun. The problem is that we don't have eyes to perceive what is new. And so I began this practice where every morning I pray a prayer that goes something like, "Lord, open my eyes to see the new thing that you're up to, that I would join you in it today." That's my prayer. And then in the evening, I go back and I say, "Lord, thank you for the new thing that I saw today." And I write that thing down, whatever that is. And
Wow.
so I've started this list. I'm about 3 weeks in right now, and just basically roughly every day, sometimes I forget, but roughly every day, a chronicled list of 3 weeks worth of God activity, something new that he's doing, some order in the chaos. And it really has been phenomenal to see. I mean, here's an example of the order in the chaos. The gift that came in for Lolly of over $3,100 anonymously, I found out who that was because the person let me know after the fact. That person, I met them randomly at Oklahoma Joe's. So Joe's Kansas City, when it was Oklahoma Joe's, the original location, I met them randomly in line. We followed each other maybe a couple years later on social media. He saw that post and he gave anonymously. That was like a 10-year span, a random connection. He and his family gave that money to help Lolly go to school.
You support to send a girl through nursing, which will affect generations, decades.
100%.
Will affect generations, happen because you're eating barbecue at a gas station.
Because I'm eating barbecue. Tell me God doesn't bring order to the chaos. Right?
Yeah.
That's it, man.
By the way, coincidence is when God decides to remain anonymous, just for the record. I just don't think there's any doubt about that. Yeah. We don't have the capacity to see everything or to ingest everything that we see. Somebody said to me 20 plus years ago, they said the universe is expanding at the speed of light. And I heard myself say, well, that's just how fast we can see.
Mm.
And I thought about that later and I thought, I'm right there. That the limitation here is we don't know how fast it's expanding. Well, we get the Hubble scope up there and all of a sudden we can see a lot faster, right? I mean, we can see a lot farther, right? And now we got the web up there and everybody's having to redo the whole calculus on what we understand about the cosmos. We're not talking about universe anymore. We're not talking about universes anymore. We're now talking about something that we don't really know how to name. I mean, we call it the cosmos, but and that's God. You know, I wrote a blog several years ago. I'm the Lord thy God, and I change not. You know what doesn't change? He never stops revealing more of himself to us. There's nothing static at all about I change not. Quite the opposite.
Yeah, just because we don't know it doesn't mean, just because we haven't known it before doesn't mean that he's changed. It's that our awareness is changing.
He truly is. We realize, like the old charismatic chorus went, he's new every morning. We realize newness in him every morning.
I like that.
Yeah. It doesn't ring quite as well with the lyrics, so he's new every morning would work better. But
sure.
That's what they really meant. Okay, I mean, the songwriter took poetic license there, right? We've talked about your painting. We've talked about your pastoring. We've talked about your poetry and your songwriting, your psalming. What's the prophet seeing?
That's a wonderfully invasive question, and I'll tell you why. Because I would say for almost the last 7 months, I've been sitting in a place of visionlessness. Which, ask anyone who knows me, that is not typical. I actually shared this with my wife not long ago, and she said, "Peter, you're one of the most visionary people I know. What do you mean visionless?" And so but I had this experience a couple of weeks back where I hopped onto a Zoom call for a prayer meeting that I don't normally join in on. I'm not able to on that night, but it happened to be that evening was open. I got the text that it was happening, and I had just I had my kids with me, but they were watching a show, so I kind of set them aside. They were doing that, and I just decided to hop on the call, and I do, and it was really interesting. The person leading the call says, she was surprised to see me, but she tells after our prayer time, she goes, "Peter, I have to tell you, when I saw you hop on the call, the Lord just said to me, so I'm going to do something." And then she went on to say that she had been feeling, check this out, she had been feeling visionless. And somehow through our time of prayer and worship, the Lord gave her what she needed to know exactly what she needs to do. And I left that meeting with an interesting kind of question in my heart. The question was, because this happens often where I'm talking with people and I don't mean to, but it's like I drip vision for other people. They leave conversations with me with some kind of renewed sight, some new insight, some new way, perspective, whatever it might be. And this question was in my heart: am I visionless or am I visionful? And maybe I'm visionful and I just need to keep putting myself in positions, in places, have eyes open, and just say, "Lord, what do you want to do?" And that's it. Which sounds like not a novel thing. This is very basic, but maybe for right now, this is the vision that he is giving me, which is just to say yes. When someone says, "Hey, you want to hop on a podcast?" Like, these things are coming out of okay, sure. I'll do it. I ended up while we were in Nepal, right before Nepal, I was in Taiwan. This was a short trip, but 2 places back to back. And we were in this conversation with a prophet, a young prophet from South Korea, who was there. And he ended up saying he had a word, and he shared this word with me. And I tested it. I've considered it. I've read it. I've ran it by a few people, and we've agreed there's something in there for me. And it was wrestling with that and thinking about that particular word. It feels exactly like this. It actually kind of coincided, and it's confirming itself. The confirmation being, like, you can have all these strategies, you can have all these things, but at the end of the day, if you would just take that step, like get your clothes wet, step into the water, as it were, and watch what God does. And so that's kind of what I've been finding myself, where I don't know that I have this big vision of, I'll say this, there's a lot of areas in which there needs to be improvement, development. We could go on a list of complaints and so forth. Probably my biggest grief, especially in the church right now, is what I would consider the lack of activation of all God's people. That would probably be the biggest grief in my heart right now. And so I leverage my life to, how can I activate? How can I be an instrument of activation, that God would allow other people to discover their giftings and discover where they're wired, and to move and grow. That said, right now, I think it's just at least a vision for me in my life right now. This is what the prophet seems to say, as it were, is to just take that step, get in the water. You're going to get wet, but you know what? God's going to meet you there. It's kind of like with Joshua. You have the story of the parting of the Red Sea, and then you have the story of the crossing of the Jordan. And it's funny how the parting of the Red Sea, the waters parted first, and then they walked on dry land. But that's not what happened with Joshua. With Joshua, it was to take a step. And as their heel hits the ground, and as the water rushes over their foot, in the moment that you think you're going to get swept away, the water gets pulled to the side, and then you cross. And I think right now that's been the step for me, which is just simply a step of take that step.
I remember a number of years I was driving somewhere on the highway, and the Lord took me to the story where the prophet stepped into the river, and first it was ankle deep, and it was knee deep, and then it was waist deep. And eventually it got where it was over his head. And the Lord said, "Brother, it's time for you to get in over your head." See, where you are now is operating beyond your own understanding, which in all thy ways trust in the Lord and lean not to thine own understanding. Now, that, by the way, is clinically irrational.
Yes.
They'll give you Prozac for that, but you're in over your head. Keep in mind that he'll take us to the deep places. Where the water's still and the grass is deep, man. He'll take us those deep places. See, that's where the wealth is. I mean, the guys that made money in the gold business didn't make it by panning it out of a creek. They made it by finding a vein and digging deep.
Yeah.
You're not gonna fuel America or the world with whatever oil rises up on water somewhere. You're going to drill miles down. There's a depth.
Yeah.
And when we get to that depth, we're over our head, man. We're going to do and say stuff that we don't even know what we're doing and saying, and it's going to impact people that we don't even know they hurt us.
No, that's true. It's like you shared before. I mean, the Lord put you on my heart. I shared something with you. I had no idea the depths of what was going on in your heart. No idea. All I knew is I typed this thing up, and I thought, your name came, your face, not even your face. And we didn't even have very much interaction before that, did we?
No.
Yeah. And it was just, I remembered seeing you one time, and I just shot you a message and said, and God does that, man. He really does. If we would just be sensitive to the promptings of his spirit.
See, he trusts us more than we trust him. Who is man that God should consider him?
Yeah, soulmate, right.
Who do we think we are? I one of my times to preach, that was what I got. And I stood Flo up. It was a church we went to, so everybody knew her. I stood her up and I said, "This is my baby." But she wasn't always my baby. She used to be another man's baby. And I started talking about her dad. Her dad is one of my heroes. If you're familiar with the actor Gary Cooper, the old Western actor, Her
Yeah.
dad kind of looked like Gary Cooper, and he kind of had that personality, that kind of strong, silent, smart, brilliant guy. Doted on his daughter.
Hmm.
She certainly wasn't lacking popular. I mean, she was homecoming queen of her high school and captain of the cheerleader squad. And I mean, she could have married anybody in town, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's this street savvy guy with this beautiful girl, and she shows up with the Bob Engel of 1966. And I'm going to tell you, if I'd been her dad, I'd have gone and gotten the shotgun. And I didn't fool him for a minute, but he trusted his work.
Oh, that's good.
He knew she'd either get rid of me or she'd turn me into a good husband. And we're still working on the latter, but she's making pretty good progress. It's interesting, by the way, the transition. I need to send you my blog, Saved by Love.
Okay.
But it's interesting. I mean, I was a jerk. Mach 3 with my hair on fire on a dead end road with a brick wall at the end of it, kind of stuff. And she never sat me down and shook her finger in my face, said straighten up or anything. I just couldn't be that big a jerk and have that lady on my arm. I just couldn't do it. There's a depth there, and I couldn't escape it. Now the attraction was pretty strong. I used to tell her I like your perfume, and she'd say I'm not wearing any. And it dawned on me one day, good grief, this woman smells good to me. This is pretty amazing, you know. But the depth over our head, it's beyond our natural understanding. Our spirit understands it. See, our spirit's not got any limits on it. Our spirit's not confined by flesh. It's not limited to our lifetime experience. It's eternal.
Yeah.
And it's existed in that realm all along. I think I just preached to myself there.
I was just thinking that you mentioned that blog post, Saved by Love. I think I may have read that one. Is that one where you like a photo of you guys at your wedding or something?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. What, like, was it Perry Zond who made the statement?
Perry said it took a brave woman to marry that bad boy, and she didn't know how true that was.
Wow.
I mean, I've known Perry for 45 years, and she's a great lady. I love her. I've ministered in prison with her and stuff, but she had no idea what kind of guy I was. I mean, and interestingly enough, people pointed out in that picture I look like one of the Blues Brothers, and it kind of fits, you know.
So you got the shades on, right?
I got the shades on, the sharkskin suit. I'd won that suit in the sales contest. That was a $125 suit in the mid '60s. I mean, I was dressed like a gangster, man. You know. I went on to say that for reasons I can't understand, this beautiful, loving, intelligent, sensitive soul, she looked through my BS and bravado and saved my life with hers.
Wow.
I mean, I was courting disaster, man. Before Flow, I was courting disaster. Added new meanings to. I found out a long time ago what a woman can do to your soul. She can't take you anywhere you don't already know how to go. She knew what was in me. And she used to say, I didn't buy your line. I said, baby, you've had my children. I think you bought my line. And it finally dawned on me one day, she didn't buy my line. She looked through it and married me anyway.
Oh, wow. Well, and that's Christ-like love, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely. So I'm the cynical older brother, and my kid brother has been out hanging with this radical John the Baptist guy. And he's all enthused, and I'm fed up, and I'm sitting under this tree and I'm grumbling. And here comes little brother. Man, you got to come and see this Jesus of Nazareth, man. Right. I mean, you got to come and see him. And the first thing that comes out of my mouth is, I'm going to trash the guy for where he came from. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? And one of the most powerful, Bob Bennett wrote a great song around this. One of the most powerful scriptures of the Bible. Come and see.
Yeah. And
I can hear old Nathaniel, man, this kid ain't going to leave me alone. You know, So I'll patronize him. Okay, if just get the kid off my back. And he starts over toward Jesus. And it says, Jesus saw him from afar off and said, behold, an Israelite in whom there is no guile.
He says it like it is.
I beg to differ, Lord. The guy just trashed you for coming from Nazareth, but he saw the man that was going to minister to. He's going to minister to India.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Christ-like love. It's exactly what it is. And we not only contain it, but we are moment by moment recipients of it. We're eternal recipients of it. You can't even say moment by moment because there's no time restraint. There's no time equation.
That's right. Well, Brother Bob, I got one question for you, maybe. I'm 38 years old, so half your age, I suppose. What would you say to me as a 38-year-old so I would finish my race well? Knowing all the things. Yeah, go ahead.
Your intuition is your soul's ambition. Hear what's in you. And you've been told over the years your heart was flawed, but it's not. It's good. God trusts you, so trust yourself.
Your intuition
is your soul's ambition. That which speaks from your most internal part is who you were designed to be.
Well, that's going to take 42 years of chewing, I think, to get right.
You're doing it right now. You're doing it right now. And I can say that from 2 points of view. One of them is I can go back and look at the unsuccessful things, the things that really didn't bear fruit in my life, or when for some reason or another, other people's influence or whatever, I didn't listen to my own intuition. People joke with me. I wrote a blog several years ago called "The First Baptist Church," and little outline of a business model of what I came out of. I might have to confess it's a little satirical. Okay. And somebody was joking with me about that, and I said, well, maybe I should be an Anglican.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But it struck me that my life has been motivated by a series of epiphanies. So I guess I'm going to be an Episcopalian, right?
There you go.
But listen, when you hear it, listen to it, weigh it, but give it opportunity. Give it opportunity. Trust who you are. You're fearfully and wonderfully made, bro. You have the mind of Christ. You have that same spirit that raised him from the dead. The only way you can miss is not be all of you. And I'll say this to you: the steps of a righteous man are ordered of the Lord, even when he stumbles.
Right. Even when, I think sometimes, and it probably comes from hopefully a good place, but that self-check will shut you down, won't it? That self-check. And I think the idea behind it is you don't, or at least the fear behind it is, I don't want to make that wrong step. I don't want to make that misstep. I don't want to fail. I don't want to, whatever it is. And to maybe lean in and say, you know what, whatever good steps I've taken, it's been ordered by the Lord, right? And then the ones when I stumble, where does it go? Like, that's it. Even when I stumble, even when he's got it.
Flo did a teaching once. She didn't do this often, but she was put in a situation where she needed to do a teaching, and she got a cross-cut piece of oak. And if you look at a cross-cut piece of oak, you could see the whole history of the tree. Wet years will have wide rings. The dry years will have narrow rings. This one, it had a whack put in it at some point or another. But what gives the oak the beauty? It's the grain. As Dwayne Allman said, they took all my mistakes and turned them into a guitar style. You know, it's not that we can't make a mistake, but we can't overwhelm God's call in our life.
Mm.
We can deny it and push back from it and be miserable, and yet God will find ways to utilize it for His kingdom, because that's going to happen. But man, you're seeking God, and your intuition is your soul's ambition, because God gave it to you.
Yeah,
He gave you the desires of your heart, man. That's your intuition.
and that's exactly, you lean in, you delight in Him, and He's giving you those things. Bob, thanks, man. I appreciate that word. I'm going to be chewing on that.
I think this is a good place to leave it.
Hmm.
I really do. I've taken an hour of your time.
Same.
I in business conversations often with did we spend our time today or invest it? You know, if you spend it, it's gone. If you invest it, you can expect a return. And I will tell you, we invested today.
Amen.
We invested today.
Amen.
Man, I thank you. Where can people find you?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as all the Poems of Grace stuff, it's really poemsofgrace.com. And there's tabs for all of our music and artwork and all of that. There's a blog. People can follow us there. And if you want to, I mean, leave a, if you have comments or anything, feel free to even just contact us. We've got a contact form there and a shop and all that. But poemsofgrace.com is probably the best way to find us. The other options would be social media. I'm Peter Assad, so search me on Facebook, on Instagram, all of that, and I'll love to interact and connect with you.
I'm blessed to know you, bro.
Same, Bob.
And we'll interact soon. Okay.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you for the time.
You be blessed.
Same.